Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is a simulcast for Wild Raven Tarot and Moon Scarab. My name is Bobby. You all know Ramon. Hey,
And my name
Ramon.
is Ramon from the Moon Scarab channel. Thank you for watching us tonight. Um, and today we're going to be discussing a topic that I'm very passionate about, one of my spiritual guides, and it's Santa Muerte. So this is an opportunity to talk about who she is, what she represents, her origins, anything related with that. I'll be sharing some personal experiences. I'll be sharing images from my altar, some of the divination tools that I use to communicate with her. So it's Santa Muerte all around. So it's an opportunity for you to learn about her. If you're being called by her to connect, there's an opportunity to understand a little bit more, and then from there you make your opinion on how to move forward. But it's a forum to be able to talk about her. And if you have any questions during the show, please post it in the chat so I can answer it.
That's awesome. A lot of people have been waiting for this broadcast. This is a topic that I myself am very. You sent me that book right when I needed that book. All right. And the book I'm referring to, everybody, The Secrets of Santa Muerte by Dr. Cressida Stone.
Crystal.
This book is is good, and I'm glad I read it um, because Santa Muerte has been calling me, and we're going to talk about that later. But I'm glad I read the book because she's very specific about altar space,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I almost made a boo boo. So, Ramon, I'm basically going to turn this over to you.
No, but wait a second. Let's say hi to a few people. Tell me, who do you think Santa Muerte is? What do you know or think you know about her? And then we'll take it from there.
Awesome. I see.
I don't work
City.
tomorrow, so I have all night long to talk.
I'm okay with that. We've got our favorite baby doll, Miss Tarot D, is here.
It's Tarot D. Hello.
Maureen, Maureen D'Amico, Selena, Essence of the Moon, and for those who don't know, which I find it hard to believe, Selena, Ramon, and I do a Thursday night show called Behind the Moon, and where we discuss spirituality, magic, witchcraft, belief systems, the whole shebang. We've done divination, divination in biblical times, types of divination. We're going to be going into spirit guides on our next show on Thursday.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. And then we've got Heather, Indigo Jaguar, Homegirl, Joanne Miranda. I have to say that.
Juan Miranda.
Joan Miranda. Jeff is here. Tarot back Ashwards. Kristen Louise is going to be joining me, I believe, on January 6th for readings. My Bobby Boo, that's me. Ramon, who do you have on your side?
I see. Let's see, because I see Hershey on my channel. Let's see. I think we're seeing the same people.
Okay, Brina,
Mm-hmm.
Hershey. If you guys have questions, line them up, get them ready, because there will be a Q&A tonight. Epithets is a show idea I've been thinking about for quite a while. Summertime, that's a great name. Purple Moon. I myself follow Hecate and Hermes, and we will be seeing epithet shows on those. Ken Payne from Oracle of the Hecatean Path will be here talking about Hecate. Joey, the Veiled Cottage Witch, will be joining for um, the Morrigan and Bridget at different times. There's Hershey. I knew she was here. Aquarius Tarot. Audra, I think I said hi to you, but hey again, Linda. Linda's the one who finally got through to me, you guys, on how to use the giveaway tool. So I'm very excited about that. And people will be trickling in as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, we had 20 people so far
yeah.
watching between both channels. And you can always go back and watch it again.
Mhm.
And it's I'm honored to be the first one. I think I'm the first one, right, on this series of epithets.
Yeah,
And not
there's
me, but Santa Muerte also.
this space was reserved for the the one who meets us all eventually. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Where exactly does Santa Muerte have her origins?
Well, it's Santa Muerte is a syncretization or a amalgamation of two different cultures. One, the Spanish when they came to the Americas, which I'm going to explain how those two fuse together, and Mesoamerican traditions, specifically with the Aztecs. Uh, they already worship death deities, and the combination of those two cultures fuse, and a new concept of divinity emerged. It wasn't that it was created at that moment.
Hmm.
Just like with other religions, like for example, Santeria fused African orishas and Christian saints into new deities. Like for example, in Santeria you have Chango, which is a African orisha, and fused with Santa Barbara. So both Santa Barbara and Shango are a new divinity that is worshipped in Santeria, and like that all around the world. So that's how Santa Muerte, the concept of how we understand her today, happened to be. And Santa Muerte goes by a lot of different names. Santa Muerte, which means holy death. Hold on. Okay. All right. I see myself better. All right. All right. So Santa Muerte, holy, which means holy death. La Santísima Muerte, the most holy death.
Mhm.
La Blanca, the white girl. La Niña Bonita, the pretty girl. La Flaquita, the skinny lady. La Huesuda, uh, 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 La Huesuda, the bony one. La Dama Poderosa, the powerful lady. La Madrina, the godmother. All are names that people assign to Santa Muerte because of their relationship with her, the familiarity that people feel with her. And Santa Muerte is a female folk saint of not only death, as we understand it, but also of life. And this is a non dualistic tradition that originated in Mexico. When I say non dualistic, it's not a tradition about good and evil. It's about life and everything that's in between. And even though she's been dubbed a new growing religious movement, that's kind of fallacious, right? It's erroneous because she is syncretic, meaning that she comes from the blending of different spiritual traditions. She is what's considered a folk saint. And what's a folk saint? A folk saint is a person that is venerated as a saint by local communities or individuals, even though they haven't been officially canonized by a religious institution like the Catholic Church. And often these figures emerge from popular devotion that are believed to have performed miracles, protection, or answer prayers either in life or after death. Um, pe- Folk saints also appeal to people because most of these saints in the Catholic Church, for example, they lived, in they lived their lives in the folk saints in local soil, so they have a cultural connection with the people, and a lot of times they were contemporary too. Whereas these larger European saints lived 100 years ago, in a place far away, and their lives were very different from the average people. So people have a hard time relating to them in comparison with a folk saint. So that means that that folk saints offer a friendly supernatural faith that is based on shared values, shared culture, and shared history. Um, Another appealing thing about folk saints is that they're not part of the Catholic Church, so they're kind of like outside of the moral demands of the church. So this means that you can ask them for things that normally you wouldn't ask God or other saints because you won't feel judged. Now, folk saints, like I mentioned, they're in different cultures, and I'm just making this pause here to go a little bit into folk saints so you can understand more, uh, give you a perspective of about Santa Muerte and how people venerate her. Here in the United States, we have folk saints, and I'm going to show you an image of three of several of them. And we have uh, Marie Laveau, and everybody knows her because she comes from
Mm-hmm.
the tradition of voodoo. And she's venerated for healing, protection, love spells, justice, and spiritual power. And she's from Louisiana. And her tomb is a pilgrimage site where people leave offerings and
I've
mark
been to
exit.
her tomb. I've
There
done
you
this
go.
spell. I've done the red
Hmm.
X's.
So she is what's considered a folk saint. We have also Frances Xavier Cabrini. She was Italian American and she comes from the Catholic Roman tradition. And she's venerated for protection for immigrants, healing, guidance for the poor. And she is not only she came as a folk saint, but she's the first U.S. citizen that was canonized as a saint, and she's still being honored in the folk saint tradition with candles, medals, and personal altars. So this is our first U.S. saint, an Italian American. She was actually born in Italy. She's an immigrant herself. We also have Black Elk, and he's from the Lakota spirituality tradition, but also Catholicism. And he's venerated for visions, healing, spiritual wisdom, creating a cultural bridge. And he's from the Lakota community of the Native Americans, but also Catholic. And, he's also considered a folk saint. So this is what Santa Muerte is. She is a saint that is venerated, but she is outside of the establishment of the church. And where does she emerge? So Santa Muerte emerged during the Spanish colonial times in the Americas, specifically in a region called New Spain. And I have a map here to show you what New Spain is. This is a territory. Let me show you this one was better. This is a territory that was owned by Spain. And here, the Viceroyalty of New Spain covered Central America and like one third of the United States. And Santa Muerte emerged during this time. It's what happened was, and like I mentioned, she is a syncretization of the Grim Reaper and another deity which the Aztecs adore called Mictecacihuatl. There's a lot of ways to pronounce her name, but Mictecacihuatl is the Nahuatl pronunciation and name of this divinity. And the Nahuatl is a language that was spoken by the Aztecs and is still spoken by uh, some ethnic groups in Mexico. So the conquistadores brought with them Christianity, but they also brought symbols, iconography, images like Christ, like the Virgin Mary, like Santa Marta, other saints, but also they brought images of the Grim Reaper, which in Spanish is known as La Parca. And in Romance languages, death is considered female. What's Romance languages? They're the languages that the Romans spoke, and when they spread throughout the empire, once the empire fell, they became separate languages, different languages. We have Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, Occitan, Catalan, and
Wow.
in all of them, female death is considered female. In Spanish is la muerte, in Portuguese a muerte, a morte, Italian la morte, la mort in French, la mort in Catalan, etc. So uh, the Spanish brought the image of the Grim Reaper, and not as a saint, but more to help the natives understand the concept of death as a finality. It was just an iconography. But they introduced this figure of death into a cultural context where death deities that already existed, where ancestor veneration was practiced, and where people made offerings to the dead. And this was already a spiritual and symbolic landscape, not an empty one. So, it's an example that Cressida Stone, the author of Secrets of Santa Muerte, makes, which I love, is that, you know, we can't understand it as an app that you upload the app and it's there, you know, that they're going to understand religion as you're presenting it. No, people see it under the light of their culture, their vision of spirituality. They see these new concepts under a different light, um, through different frameworks, and that's how they understand world and the concept. So this this figure aligned perfectly with Mictecaciguatl, who is the Lady of the Dead. And this is the part of the cosmology that we have with the Aztecs. We have Mictecaciguatl. She's the Lady of the Dead. Her husband, it's called Mictlantecutli, and he was the god of the dead. They were a consort. They were married. It was husband and wife, and both of them ruled the Mictlan. The Mictlan is the land of the dead, the underworld. But the underworld is not like hell. It's not a place for punishment. It was just a place where the dead went, and Mitecaciguatl was in charge of guarding the bones of the deceased. Um, so yeah, in Nahuatl, Mitecaciguatl translates as Lady of the Dead, and she was a key figure in the Aztec mythology, and she's both of them ruled the Mictlan. But it wasn't just Mictecaciguatl who was being followed by the Aztecs. Also the Zapotecs, the Mixtecs, the Mayas, and a lot of other Mesoamerican cultures had also their death deities and veneration of them. Now, if you look at ancient Mexico and around the world, there's always been death deities. We look back and we find, the general person might find weird that death deities are being worshipped, but this has been part of history throughout different cultures all around the world. In ancient Egypt, we had Anubis, right? Anubis was this jackal head god, and he was the god of funerary rites and the dead. We have Osiris, right, who resurrected and he ruled the underworld. In the West African tradition, we have Oya, who is a goddess of storms, but she's also linked with cemetery, with death and rebirth. In Hinduism, we have Yama, we have Kali. Uh, in Buddhism, we had the Yama Maridahama, who was a judge of the dead. I mean, it's the list goes around. We have Hades, god of the underworld, right? Pluto is the equivalent of Hades.
There
Hell
is
in Norse,
someday.
Hell in Norse tradition,
This is so good.
etc., etc., etc. And while for the Spanish, the Grim Reaper was simply a popular and artistic personification of death, some argue that indigenous people influenced by their practices involving ancestral bones and death deities interpreted the Green Reaper as an actual saint to be venerated for favors. But it's like I said, I and a lot of people believe that that was not the case. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a syncretization of their traditions with this new image of the Grim Reaper. And it got to the point that they had to conceal their worship of these deities, and this, just like with Jesus, Santa Muerte was worshipped covertly for hundreds of years due to by punishment by the Spanish when they discovered that the indigenous were worshiping holy death.
Yeah,
And this
worshiping icons was not looked upon fondly.
hmm and especially death, it's that image which for the Europeans had a different concept, and we inherited that, right? We see a skeleton and we get freaked out. We feel a certain way. Um, Whereas for other traditions, it wasn't like that, and the punishment by the Spanish were really ferocious. We know about the Spanish Inquisition, which was the bloodiest. And one of the forms of punishment was through autos de fe. And the autos de fe were public rituals of penance and judgment that were conducted by the Spanish and Portuguese Inquisition. And the term literally means act of faith in Spanish, both in Spanish and Portuguese. And these events typically involved, they were very public and they were held in public squares. There were reading of sentences, there were public penances, there were punishments. Sometimes there were religious ceremonies, but they were meant to, show people which is or the correct way of doing things. And Spanish colonial documents from 1793 and 1797 describe the local devotion of Santa Muerte during those times in what's today the present states of Querétaro and Guanajuato. And it's some of what the documents say. It says that uh, the natives were idolatry, were practicing idolatry, revolving skeletal figures, asking for petitions for justice, and they mention Santa Muerte. Now, when the Spanish were indoctrinating the natives, they were talking about having a Santa Muerte, having a holy death. That's why they brought the Green Reaper, sort of like an iconography, because in Christianity, death is the opposite of Christ, of life. It's a finality. It's something that you don't want. But once you get there, you want it to be a Santa Muerte, a holy death, a good death. And to do that, you had to follow Christianity. You had to be a good person to be able to reach heaven, right? That's where the word Santa Muerte comes from having a holy death. But the name, lingered. And every record related with Santa Muerte disappeared during the Inquisition. What happened was it went underground. And it wasn't until the 1940s that three archaeologists, two Mexican and one American, discovered around the 1940s little prayers and references to Santa Muerte, specifically using red candles. And they were meant as love spells, to control a cheating husband, a man that left. Santa Muerte still remained, she lingered, she was still being worshipped, but it was coverted. It was hidden. And it was more as a saint that people went to for favors related to love. It was known as the Holy Death of the Crimson Candle because she came in aid for specifically women and girls who felt betrayed in love.
Mhm.
So for a span of 200 years, Santa Muerte veneration was covert. Skeletons were literally being hidden in closets, and this is a very far cry from today when we see her worship publicly. Any questions so far, Talia?
Yes. We've got
Uh-huh.
several, and I've got a couple.
All right.
Uh, First off, let me say that when I first felt the call was about 3 or 4 years ago when she started tickling. I moved into this area where I live now
Mm.
and knew there was someone here, I should say. And I started having dreams, which I don't dream. Um, I'll, it's kind of personal, but it involved death and rebirth. We live out here by the border where there's a lot of narcos and um, a lot of border crossers. call on Santa Muerte for safe crossing. Um, so that is when I first started notice, but I knew nothing about it, so didn't
Mm-hmm.
really acknowledge anything. I follow Hecate as a guide into death, but we're actually talking about death. Um, the other thing is, she was red in my dreams. That was the reason I
Mm-hmm.
brought it up. Um, just like the statue that you received, it was red. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I see her. Uh, I've tried to look at her in other colors, but right now that's for me. Let's take some of these questions so we could get them off the board. Hershey.
Okay, there's a lot we're going to talk about. I'm just going in as an introduction into the history, but we're going to be talking about the iconography,
Mm,
about the colors, about some other skeleton figures that people usually mistake Santa Muerte for. My personal experiences with Santa Muerte, how I connected with her, how she called me, uh how to know when she wants to work with you. I'm going to show a video of my altar. There's a lot we're going into, so
this is a full-on show, you guys. This
yes,
we
there
both been waiting for this.
it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm just like just scratching the surface with the history,
Right.
sort to give an introduction, but there's a lot into it.
I think
But
there are a couple questions here to help us define exactly what we're talking about here. Is she considered a Marian figure? I'm not sure what that.
like a virgin, like an aspect
Oh,
of the
La
virgin is what
Maria.
I'm. No, no, she is totally something different. La Guadalupe is a Marian figure.
Okay.
She has an aspect. The Virgin Mary is called different things in different countries because she covers different aspects. Different apparitions. You had La Guadalupe in Mexico,
Hmm.
Caridad del Cobre in Cuba. You had La Fatima in Portugal, La Madonna in Italy. Same figure, different aspects, but it's one source. Santa Muerte is something totally different. She is a female saint. The only thing that's similar is she's coded, she's considered female, but
Right.
has no correlation with Christianity.
Uh, Mr. Odie says, when you get diagnosed with a terminal illness, you really begin to look at death differently and you learn not to fear it anymore. This is true. I'm in the same boat as you, Mr. Odie, and I'm not nearly as scared as I used to be. And I think that's why I started feeling her in my life, actually, when we moved down here. Here's a question from Kristen from Nine Worlds Intuitive Tarot. Is she a protector of trans people or is she remembering it wrong?
She's a protector for anyone, and this is something I'll talk a little bit further
Okay.
ahead. But a lot of people who feel ostracized from the church, LGBTQ community, people who are sex workers, people go to her because she's not. They don't feel judged
They don't
by her
judge.
in comparison with some other Christian churches,
Okay.
some other Christian saints. The Catholic Church, some of them they close doors to some communities
Yes.
access,
I've been
but
kicked
she's
out of some of those
she's
churches. Yes.
she's open to anyone and everyone.
Heather wants to know, Indigo Jaguar, would referring to Santa Muerte as a goddess be offensive to her then?
No, no, not
Okay.
really. No, no.
I get why she's asking that, because you introduced her as a guiding spirit, but a lot of
Hmm.
people do view her as a goddess. I view
Yeah.
her as goddess energy myself.
She's a representation of divinity. If you think about it in some other terms, she's like an aspect, just like maybe like all these different virgins are the aspect of one virgin. Santa Muerte is like a representation of a higher force of the current of life and death, which,
Yeah.
like I mentioned before, has been going by different names in different cultures and is, a cultural representation of that bigger thing,
See,
you
that's
know.
what's confused me, I think, at first, because I follow a Greek pantheon. I always have.
Hmm.
Um, so Thanatos would have been the death figure I'm familiar with, and then there's different types of death under Thanatos. But this is the first time I felt this goddess energy, and to start dreaming when I don't dream meant something, and then I met you shortly after that, and yeah,
Hmm.
There's more to it. All right. So what
There's a
else you
lot.
got for us, my friend?
Okay, no more questions.
No, I think we're. Are there any more questions, you guys,
Okay.
before we turn the road over to Ramon again? No.
No, if not, we'll
Okay.
continue.
Yes. Let's go
All
on.
right. So, Santa Muerte, like I said, her worship was like very converted. It went very underground, but it wasn't until 2001 when the saint emerged publicly, and this was through a person, a lady called Enriqueta Romero, and she is a quesadilla seller in a barrio, a place called Tepito in Mexico City. And what happened, and I have a photo of her and Cressida Stone together.
That's
You know
awesome.
that, yeah, that lady that's in Enriqueta Romero. And what happened was that her son was jailed, and she asked for a petition for a soon release. And as in gratitude for answering her prayers, she took her statue of Santa Muerte, which she had in her house, hidden. Not, people kind of like in the neighborhood when they went to buy quesadillas, they could like see her through the kitchen, and people started asking, can I leave an offer for her? Can I leave something, in gratitude? And her all the ofrendas starting to grow and grow. And once her son was freed from jail, she took the statue and put it outside in public view, and that's when everything exploded, because everybody started coming out of the closet. The worship, people were worshiping her in secret, and people from afar were coming to see the statue and to leave ofrendas, and you know people,
When you say ofrendas, we're talking offerings, you guys.
offerings, yeah, offerings to her. And that's when the devotion of Santa Muerte exploded, with a lot of people not only becoming devotees but also declaring publicly their faith. And it's a lot of other events happened right after that. We have uh there was a gentleman called Jonathan Legaria. He was also known as Comandante Pantera, and he was an outspoken of Santa Muerte, and he built a church for Santa Muerte. He actually built a 75-foot effigy of Santa Muerte outside Mexico City, and I have images of that.
Wow. Whoa.
Look how big that image is.
That's incredible.
Yes.
A lot of
And
people too.
yeah, and he started institutionalizing the temple as Santa Muerte Internacional. But in 2008, he was killed, and his mother, Enriqueta Vargas, that's another Enriqueta. There's two Enriqueta. Enriqueta Romero, the lady who brought the statue out, the quesadilla seller, and Enriqueta Varga, the mother of this person. She was appalled by the impunity with which his son's murder was treated. Like, the police didn't care at all.
Hmm.
And she wasn't a devotee of Santa Muerte. She was a devotee of La Guadalupe. But when her son died, she asked Santa Muerte to help her avenge the death of his son. And she vowed to extend the folk saint's reputation, as she brought justice because of the assassination of her son. And events transpired, and the people were brought very quick to justice. And from there, she became a major spokesperson of Santa Muerte, going to jails to minister to people who already believed in her, and spreading the faith. She passed away in 2018, and her daughter took over. But nowadays, there's like so many temples of Santa Muerte, and she's like really like a public figure. And it's estimated that between 5 and 7 million Mexicans venerate Santa Muerte. But in reality, it's believed that the numbers are much bigger, because this is not limited just to people in Mexico. It's
Hmm.
spread here in the United States, um, of course, in Latin America, in the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
we're asking, somebody's asking about South America. What is the equivalent?
We're gonna go to that because there's other figures and there's ones that are specifically to South America. But in terms of Santa Muerte herself, it's not just limited to the Americas. There's people who venerate her in Spain. I know that about this lady. She's a seller of Santa Muerte figures. She's in the Netherlands. There's people in
Wow.
India who venerate her because they see equivalencies with Kali. People in Japan. It's
That
it's
was one of
it,
the questions. Does she relate to Kali?
yes. There's people who find correlations with of her energy with Kali and other deities, and they become interested in Santa Muerte.
No.
So uh, she's a folk saint that basically appeals to everybody. And even though in movies, you see depictions of like drug cartels that venerate
Mhm.
her, she has an appeal for people in all spheres: lawyers, politicians, taxi drivers. And why is she the cult or the veneration of Santa Muerte is has exploded because she is a saint who responds really quick. I know this from personal experience. I've asked her for, we don't call miracles, we ask for favors, and she always delivers what I ask her for. Um and very quick, and when you establish that bond with her, she answers, she gives you signs. It's incredible. You know and that's why she is exploding. She's also a saint that's amoral. you know People use her for different reasons. They connect with her energy for light but also for dark, and she doesn't judge you if you are really devoted to her. But you have to understand that, like with any type of magic or spiritual manifestation that you want to do, there is uh, a karmic price sometimes to pay. So you have to be very careful how you handle these energies. But she is one who like really answers, and she answers really quick.
Are followers of Santa Muerte considered witches?
No, so the the veneration of Santa Muerte goes through a lot of different spheres. There's people who consider themselves Catholic and they venerate Santa Muerte. They see Santa Muerte as being subject to the power of God. She is the power of death. There's people in the Wicca tradition who connect with her. There's people who practice astrology and her. There's people who practice uh, divination with crystals and connect with Santa Muerte,
Hmm.
Hinduism and Santa Muerte. So like she's not limited to it's not a religion, right? It's a devotion to a saint. And in my case, I don't follow any type of religion. I was raised in Christianity, but my views has changed. I have a little bit about different spiritual traditions, but I'm completely devoted to her. I don't mix her devotion with any other other form of spirituality. So she's not limited or conditioned to as as a religious organization. She appeals to people from different backgrounds and different spiritual traditions.
All right, so let's go on. What else? I'm so enthralled with this. This is so good.
uh so what else? So let's go into, yeah, so that's Santa Muerte in general, her history, where she came from, how she merged into the figure that we know today, how her devotion has expanded. Like I said, it's for all spheres. A lot of people associate Santa Muerte with um drug cartels, but it's because movies, police reports, and they have pigeonholed the figure of Santa Muerte. Christ is venerated also by cartel people. So is La Guadalupe, but they always pick on Santa Muerte. Um, uh, yeah, but like I said, she's a saint who doesn't judge anyone. Everybody connects with her, and you know, uh, a lot of people who live in difficult situations, who are exposed to death in their daily lives, sex workers, the police, um, and a lot of others, they connect with Santa Muerte for protection.
There's a lot of border crossing out here, and it's a big thing, crossing the
Hmm.
border for protection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna go now into the differences between some of the different skeletal figures, and how sometimes people confuse Santa Muerte with them. So Santa Muerte, what's specific to her? She's a syncretic Mexican folk saint that combines indigenous death deities, Mixtecacihuatl, with the Grim Reaper.
Hmm.
And she's a healer, she's a protector. She comes in different colors. People worship her, different aspects of Santa Muerte, different colors of her. And there is a very specific iconography that is associated with Santa Muerte. Santa Muerte is a skeleton lady with a robe. She always has an owl with her, and the owl is her messenger. And it's this owl that has, like, what's called the tufts, the little horns.
A
I have
horned
an
owl.
image here. Uh-huh. Yeah. The one on the left, that's
Yes.
her messenger. The one on the right, it's people in Mexican traditions and Mesoamerican traditions recognize it, but as an owl of of death.
That's the owl that flew over my head at Halloween a few years back. I've told the story
Really.
on air. Yeah, that owl, the white one on the right there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew it meant something. We'll talk more at
Yes.
the end. I want you to go on.
Mm-hmm.
We got a
Yeah.
lot of good questions, and I am starring them, so we are
Okay.
going to touch on them.
So Santa Muerte has a specific iconography. It's skeletal lady. She has robes. She has a scythe. She has a owl. The owl is her messenger. Usually, you see her holding a globe representing Earth, which represents her dominion over everything and everyone, because everything in this existence has an expiration date. Me,
Mm.
you. I mean, even abstract things, right? Ideas, ways of things, seeing things have death, right? The scales, uh, yeah. So that is specific to Santa Muerte, but I want to say the owl more than anything is like what's different between Santa Muerte and other figures. What other figures does she get associated with? I have 4 different images here. The first one is La Catrina, and La Catrina comes from Mexico. And La Catrina is actually a illustration that was created by Jose Posada in the early 20th century, and it was a satirical representation of the upper class of Mexican woman. And she's a female skeletal figure, but she's elaborately dressed in fancy hats, dresses, and is often colorful and very festive. She's not venerated at all, but she's become a motif of Mexican culture. We see it a lot in Day of the Dead, um, motifs in throughout Mexico. When you think about La Catrina, that's what you see. And I actually have a few examples. I have This is a Catrina, and we bought this in Mexico,
Mm.
my partner and I.
Uh-huh.
And you see, skeletal lady. She's, dressed up in fancy clothes. Yeah, we got this. I think it was in the Frida Kahlo house. I have this other one, another Katrina. And you see these here in America too. Sometimes you see them like in Marshalls or like these home decor places. And everybody loves La Catrina. Nobody's scared of her. Nobody worships her, but nobody feels creeped out by her in comparison with Santa Muerte. Those are my partners. My partner has a collection of Catrinas. He loves her, but he doesn't connect with Santa Muerte. He's not a person who follows like any spiritual tradition. Um, uh, so he has like no spiritual connection, or he's not intrigued by Santa Muerte. Uh, he's sort of like a little bit scared of her, I guess, but he loves La Catrina. And you see the difference is not that much except in the clothing. But often people confuse Santa Muerte with La Catrina, but they are two different things. So, like I mentioned, Jose Posada was the one who created La Catrina, and he published the image in a newspaper, and people were fascinated. It was a criticism towards Porfirio Diaz, who was the president of Mexico, and what he was saying was, "You are so involved in these European traditions, uh, and you're forgetting that you have also native ancestry." And yeah, it was satirical, but it stayed, it lingered within the culture. Diego Rivera, the husband of Frida Kahlo, he painted this mural called Dream of a Sunday Afternoon in Alameda Park. Diego Rivera, he's known for these amazing, huge paintings called murals. And there were so many elements. And you might not see it there, but I'm going to give you a close up. There's a detail
Oh,
of the painting. And you see on the right side, a Catrina next to Frida Kahlo. And I'm going to bring it even closer. So you have La Catrina right there. And he, through that painting kind of cemented the the idea of La Catrina in popular culture. And you see images like this, right? Ladies dressed up for Halloween or Day of the Dead, very festive, a lot of flowers, and that is Catrina like. It's not Santa Muerte, but usually there's an association between both of them. It's beautiful, it's colorful, but it's a totally different energy. It's just an artistic representation. Who else do we have? Let me go back to that image. We have, of course, our Grim Reaper. And the Grim Reaper, where does he come? Well, the Grim Reaper is coded as male in English, right? But it's the Spanish. They brought the image of the Grim Reaper, and it's female. But I don't know. Culturally, we tend to see the Grim Reaper as male, and Grim Reaper is of European origins, and it's the personification of death. And it emerged after the bubonic plague, the Black Death. And it's a figure that symbolized exactly that. As we know, the Black Death was a pandemic that devastated Europe and part of Asia between, I think it was 1347 and 1351. And it killed between 75 million and 200 million people worldwide, including 60% of Europe. And generally, like I mentioned, it's male, even though some cultures render it as female. And it's a hooded skeleton with a scythe, and it's not worship. And, it's an image that we have part of our collective psyche, right? And it came in a time in which there was a more awareness of death. That's why concepts like memento mori happened around the same time. Memento mori, remember that you will die.
mhm.
Concepts also like homo bula est. It's Latin for man is a bubble, and it talks about the fragility and the briefness of life. um, Vanitas, which was an artistic expression meaning vanity or emptiness. And we see a lot of paintings of like skulls with still life of during that time. And it was more popular in the 16th century, 17th century, especially in Dutch painting. And that's the motif, like decaying fruits, clocks, wedding flowers, musical instruments. And it talks about that, about the fragility and the briefness of life. But, nonetheless, people associate or confuse Santa Muerte with the Grim Reaper. But the Grim Reaper he has a scythe, uh, but he doesn't have the owl. So that's how you can more or less tell that it's not Santa Muerte. What other figures do we have? We have San La Muerte. And San La Muerte is a kind of like a male Santa Muerte, but he's from South America. He's from Argentina and Paraguay. And San La Muerte, like Saint the Death, San La Muerte means Saint Death, and it's a folk saint that it's also a folk saint, but he's venerated primarily in Argentina, Paraguay, and the southern part of Brazil. And he's depicted as a male skeleton, often holding a scythe, and is associated with protection, healing, and justice. And San La Muerte the legend is that he was actually a person.
Hmm.
He was a Jesuit missionary, and according to the tale, this missionary dedicated himself to aiding the indigenous people that were afflicted by leprosy. And his unwavering commitment to healing the sick led him to accusations of sorcery by colonial authorities, and they imprisoned him. And while confined, it's said that he refused all sustenance, all food, choosing to fast as an act of spiritual devotion. And guards, they started like leaving plates, and they saw that the plates were just staying there. So they opened the cell, and they discovered that his body was standing upright in his cell, a posture that really defied natural explanation. And he became a saint because of that in his own right. He's a protector of the natives. He dedicated himself. His body, it's believed, that was rescued, for lack of a better word, by the natives and kept for veneration. Yeah, so that's another figure. A lot of people who in South America who venerate San La Muerte, venerate also Santa Muerte. Like they combine both energies, but they're two different, very different aspects. Uh, yeah. So another character we have Rey Pascual, and Rey Pascual is another skeletal figure, but he's worshipped in the area of Guatemala. He's known also as Pascualito, and it's said that he was actually another person too, a real person. He was actually a Spanish soldier named Pascual who died on a Good Friday, and locals began venerating him. And he has the appearance of a male skeleton, and is often dressed in colonial soldier attire. Let me see. I think I have another image of Pascualito somewhere. There's one. This is a nicer one. And he's venerated for healing and protection in rural Guatemala. Not only Guatemala, but like this part of Mexico that's close to Guatemala, uh, like overlaps with Pascualito. Yeah. Any questions so far?
Let's take a look. I start a couple. Heather would like to know. We're referring. Oh, we got that one. Would just take that one off. Lenin, is the Bible a sacred text in her veneration or something else?
Is the Bible a sacred text in her I don't see why not. It's not limited. I mean, you can combine
But it's
your
not necessary.
No, not really. No.
Okay.
Now, it's a lot of people who venerate Santa Muerte in Mexico who are Catholic. They incorporate like a lot of Catholic traditions into their worship of Santa Muerte. There's like novenas, like rosaries that they pray to Santa Muerte.
Yes.
Same ones used in Christianity or somewhat change, mentioning Santa Muerte. There's a lot of like overlapping in terms of Christianity, Catholicism specifically, and Santa Muerte veneration in some Mexican communities. But again, you can combine your faith, whatever faith you have, if you have any, with devotion to Santa Muerte, or just devotion solely to her, like I do.
Mr. OD, true, she commented, the media always shows her with drug cartels. That is true, but
Yeah, that's
she's
true.
so much more than that.
But it's interesting because nobody associates San La Muerte or Pascualito, especially San La Muerte, with drug cartels, but it's Santa Muerte who they associate with.
Do you think
So
it's regional? Why or
no, of course not.
no?
No, that's no. I think it's, I don't know. I think it's the whole thing with the threat of female energy. It's still that thing that's been ingrained for centuries about women in power, the female
Right.
power. They pigeonhole her and not San La Muerte. And I have to say the devotion of San La Muerte, it's a little bit dark. From what I heard, it's a little bit darker than Santa Muerte. Santa Muerte is like so clear, so crystal, so clean. With San La Muerte, I don't mean to offend anyone, but it's the some of the rituals. I don't know. It's
I
a
would I
different
would
energy.
like to say that no matter what deities are out there, there's always going to be somebody that take it to a dark place.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hecate, there's the media and dark witches will try to take it to a dark place, but she's not that at all. You guys.
No.
Um, the face painting, is that indicative of specific culture or is it devotee decided? That has to do with La Catrina, right?
La Catrina, yeah, is that's just like drawing I don't know, a sugar skull in your face.
Uh-huh.
Changing the your skin tone to match the color of bones, making it colorful with decor flowers. Yeah, it's not specific to like any devotional practice. It's more like an artistic expression associated with La Catrina.
We're going to be talking about her most used signs soon, Lennon. Heather wants to know, do you think Santa Muerte and Mictecua, I can never say this name, are the same being?
Mitecasihuatl.
Yes.
Mitecasihuatl. Yes. So at Santa Muerte is a what's the word I use? Mictecasihuatl is like a predecessor of Santa Muerte. So
Ah,
Mictecasuatl is the deity that the Aztecs worshipped before the Spanish came. When the Spanish came, the Grim Reaper, the Grim Reaper and Mictecasuatl, those two concepts merge into something new, which is Santa Muerte. You know,
gotcha.
and yeah, because if you think about it, Santa Muerte is depicted with a scythe, right? But the scythe is of European tradition. Santa
Gotcha.
Muerte's the scales comes from Europe, right? The lamp. So those are like part of her iconography that is not typical from Mesoamerica, but it's a fusion of both of them. Nonetheless, like I said, it's not it's more of a reinterpretation of an older force,
Okay.
like with
And
Santeria. Yeah, like I mentioned before, Santeria at Santa
every time
Barbara.
every time you say that, every time you say Santeria, I want to say I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no
I don't
crystal ball.
practice.
No, it's a song. I don't
Oh, okay.
practice Santeria. Um, Miss Tarot D wants to know: people dress as La Catrina, but is it sacrilegious to dress as La Santa Muerte?
I don't. Would you dress as Jesus? It's it or the Virgin
That's
Mary.
always
I mean,
bothered me. Yeah.
yeah. Like, what's the purpose? You have to ask. What's the purpose of you dressing up as a religious figure? Um, it all comes down to what is the purpose behind it.
Okay, we're all caught up with questions now. Yeah, it's that song, Heather.
All right. Shall we continue?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Santa Muerte, the figures. her imagery comes in different colors. And they, each one of the colors represent a different aspect of Santa Muerte. You have white Santa Muerte that represents purity, protection. You had the red Santa Muerte, which people use for love, for passion. The black Santa Muerte is for protection and for power. For me, the black Santa Muerte is like the most powerful one. There's Santa Muerte also for green. The green Santa Muerte represents justice, legal matters, but not just justice in terms of the law, but also karmic justice. So a lot of people connect with the green Santa Muerte for that purpose. Blue Santa Muerte is to communicate, to connect for wisdom, for communication. Purple Santa Muerte for spirituality, transformation, magic. There's a gold Santa Muerte for wealth, prosperity, and there's actually a Santa Muerte in 7 colors, which represents like protection for a lot of different things. Orange
Can
Santa
you
Muerte.
put that picture
Mhm.
back up real quick?
Yeah. Orange Santa Muerte, people connect with her for mental health, for addiction recovery. So these are different aspects that represents connections that people establish with
Okay,
Santa Muerte to be able to ask for different favors.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Um, let's see. So, it's I have, and I'm gonna see if I can connect my camera. I I have Santa Muerte in different colors, and I actually made them myself. Let me see if I can put this. A while ago, I bought like 25 of these little Santa Muerte sculptures, and I loved it. They were the perfect size, but they were just like metal color. So I colored each one of Santa Muerte in a different color, but I have my own personal colors to connect with new aspects of Santa Muerte. Let me see if I can connect this camera.
That's what I was asking Purple Moon. Why I asked him to put the picture back up. Whether it was associated with the chakras, possibly.
Mm, not
Not
really,
really,
but
but
hold
hold
on.
on.
You need to
Let me
mute
mute
that.
this microphone. Okay. Not really, but you can perfectly connect the different colors of Santa Muerte with different chakras. Why not? That is a personal
Why
one.
not?
Yeah, why not?
That's the thing with magic and belief. It's tied to your intention. We just did a show about this
Mm-hmm.
intention and energy.
Totally. So just give me 1 second, and I'm gonna show you some of my Santa Muertes, different colors that I have. So, okay, let's start with this one.
Hey, Roman, how
This
you doing?
this is my white Santa Muerte, and I'm sorry, it looks a little bit washed out, but it's because of the lights and this camera sucks. But this white Santa Muerte to me represents purity, peace, spiritual renewal, divine protection. And when I want to connect with those aspects, I connect with the Santa Muerte. Might not see it, but she's all white. She has gold details all around. She's beautiful. She's the perfect size. All right, next one. And this is a traditional color, white. Another traditional color and one that I use is the red Santa Muerte. And red Santa Muerte is for passion, for love, emotions, emotional strength, for courage. You can use it also for family bonds because it represents red, like blood.
Mm.
Yes. The next Santa Muerte I have is the black Santa Muerte. And this to me is like the most powerful one. Her energy is very powerful. And a lot of people use it, and I use it too for protection, for justice, for transformation, for shadow work. And she's perfect for that. She's all black all around. Her energy is like really powerful. Next one, I have a gold Santa Muerte. And the gold Santa Muerte is for wealth, abundance, success, divine illumination, solar energy. And this is also a traditional color. It's a color that you can find Santa Muertes as, and it appeals for those aspects. Next one, and one that I mentioned, green
People are
Santa Muerte.
asking how tall they are, Ramon.
So this is about 4 inches. Yeah, 4 or 5 inches. Yeah, I want to say 5 inches. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 5 inches. And green Santa Muerte, like I mentioned, is for justice, not only in terms of law, but also for, you know, karmic justice, but it's also healing, growth, for balance, for legal success, all these things that have to do with balancing. That's why I chose this one with the scales.
Right.
Because these figures, like one has an owl, another one has the globe, this one has the scales, and the other one just an hourglass. So this one I chose with the scales, and I painted it in gold and in green with gold trims all around. She's beautiful. All right, next color is yellow, and yellow Santa Muerte is for mental clarity, optimism, joy, creativity, and this is one that I connect with for those aspects. I have a blue Santa Muerte, and this is, like I mentioned before, another traditional color. This is for wisdom, communication, inner truth, for guidance, for mental clarity. You know, anything that has to do with the mental realm. Santa Muerte, the blue Santa Muerte is great for that. Um, Next color, purple. Purple Santa Muerte is for psychic development, for
Love that.
spiritual power, for transformation, anything that has to do with the spiritual realm. The purple Santa Muerte is great for that. She reminds, this is my Miss Tarot di Santa Muerte, purple.
Everybody
All
wants to
right.
know, do you put them in one place or in
Yes,
specific places around your house?
no, so I have a little altar. I don't have it accessible right now, but I have like this little altar that has like a little, I don't know, she's raised high above, and I have a candle. So I have like a specific little altar that I constructed for the Santa Muertes. When I want to connect with her, I just put that one and a candle under it. Um, what else? Orange Santa Muerte, where are you? I have the orange Santa Muerte right here. And orange Santa Muerte is for health, for vitality, for recovery from addictions, for breaking addictions, for creativity. And, you know, when I'm talking about addictions, it's not just substance, but, you know, sometimes negative patterns that we fall into, and it's hard for us to break. You know, when we're talking about addictions, it's not just on drugs. It's a lot of different things that, you know, could be addiction for eating, for negative patterns, for way of thinking. The orange Santa Muerte is great for that, to help you clear that. Um, I have a pink Santa Muerte, and the pink Santa Muerte is for love. But you know, you have the red Santa Muerte, which is used also for love, but it's more like passionate love. This love is different. This is self love, emotional healing, harmony, having a gentle connection. I use it most for, you know, when I'm sometimes when I'm down, to enhance my self love, you know, to connect with that. And I don't know how it looks on the screen, but she's like a deep pink. She's sort of like a Barbie pink.
It
She's
looks
like,
white, like
nah,
very light pink.
no, but it's like Barbie pink. It's like the Barbie Santa Muerte.
It's the orange one looked yellow and the yellow one looked orange. That's what it was.
Really?
Yeah,
No,
it
no.
was
The
funny.
orange is like very orange. It's very orange. You know, it's, let's see if I can.
So when not in use, where do you keep all of them?
I store them in a black bag. I have a bag here because I don't want those energies like mixing up. And then all of them are in this very old wooden box, and I have them all 20 organized.
Dang, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. Next one. I have copper Santa Muerte, and this is not a traditional one. This is one that I created. And this, I use it for energy connection, for cleaning spiritual magnetism. When I'm down physically or emotionally, to connect and ask for energy enhancement. Because copper is a great conductor
It's a
of
conductor, yeah.
energy. Yeah. And it's a beautiful tone of copper. It's copper with golden trims. Yeah, this is a personal color, one that I use. All right. Another color that is not that typical and that I use, and I created for personal devotion, is the silver Santa Muerte. And this is I use it for moon work, for intuition, psychic vision, spiritual insight. When I'm doing moon work, I use this Santa Muerte. She's platinum. I mean, she's like chromium silver. All right. You want to see more?
Yeah, I think we're all intrigued.
All right. I have an aqua Santa Muerte. And I don't know how you can, it looks in the screen. Let me see if I can.
It looks
Yeah. So,
very sky blue.
yeah. So it's actually aqua. And here are white details. It's sort of like representing the sea. And when the sea breaks in the shore, like the bubbles, the
Oh yeah,
whiteness.
the foam.
Yes, the foam, exactly. So I use this is not traditional. This is me who made this color. And I connect this when in summertime for sea magic, but also for when I'm traveling and I have to go to another country, I connect with the Santa Muerte for protection. Um, Also for adaptability, because if you think about it, the sea is a big expansion, but it also changes. Liquid adapts to different shapes,
It's
different situations.
self-leveling. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. For spiritual flow. So this is Santa Muerte that I connect with. I have a lilac Santa Muerte, and this might look washed as well, but it's a very pale lilac. And I associate lilac with death, believe it or not. And it was because of a story my mother told me when I was a kid. Every time I see lilac, I associate it with death. So I use this color, this Santa Muerte, for situations of death, physical or spiritual death. When I want to bring death into a situation, I want something to end. I connect with this one, but it's also for transformation, for rebirth, for cyclic changes, for closure. I
Mhm.
connect with the lilac Santa Muerte, which is not traditional.
Yes,
This
yes,
is a
Maru is
color.
lilac in English.
Lilac, exactly.
Yes.
It's my Latino accent. Now
Everybody
this
loves your
one,
Latino accent. Don't worry about it.
all right. This one is another one that it's unique, and this is the cosmic Santa Muerte, and she is blue. And if you see, she reflects. She is. I try to use like blue and purple and shiny details, just like the cosmos. She is gorgeous. I mean, in person, she's fascinating. So this is my cosmic Santa Muerte, and I use it for like universal connection, galactic wisdom, destiny, infinity. When I want to connect with divine timing, topics associated with, I don't know, galaxies, the universe, UFOs, I connect with cosmic Santa Muerte. I mean, if you think about it, death and rebirth is part of the whole universe. Stars are being born at all times, they go to death. So the process of death and rebirth and birth, it's universal, right?
Maru called that the starry sky Santa Muerte.
No, she looks like the night sky if you see it in person. It doesn't look the the screen doesn't do her justice. But she's like very dark and it's just like a night sky. Yeah. All
Can I
right,
ask you a
next one.
personal question, Ramon?
Yes.
Um, can you relay the feeling you get when you were painting these?
Um, it was a very deep experience because each one of them has a unique meaning for me, and as I was painting them, I was talking with Santa Muerte right in front of me right now, here in front of my monitor. I have my Santa Muerte altar, and I'm going to show a video of it later on. But Santa Muerte is the first person that I talk with in the morning, the first word, the first name that I talk to, and the last one in the day. So I'm in connection with her throughout the whole day. And, I have a very intimate connection with her. And as I was painting with these, I was telling her, I do these with respect. I do it with love. I want to connect with you in a deeper way. And, it was my energy and my communication with her, my reasons I kind of like infuse on each one of these, so each one of them has their unique energy of connecting with her. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So this is gunmetal Santa Muerte. And she's gunmetal color, uh, gold trims. And to me, she represents exactly that. It's a shadow Santa Muerte, but it's a shadow of strength, of justice, of resilience, of power. It's very, very powerful, but it's like that energy that's like boom, like a gun, right? Quick, effective, and powerful. So that's gunmetal Santa Muerte. I have a sky blue Santa Muerte. And this is sort of like a baby blue. It's baby blue, grim trims, golden trims. And this is for hope, inspiration, tranquility, divine communication. It might look white, but it's a baby blue color. And like when you look at the sky, a clear sky, it lifts your spirit, it gives you hope. It's exactly that feeling. So that's my sky blue Santa Muerte. I have a ivory Santa Muerte. This is different
That's
from
gorgeous.
white. Yeah, because this is the white Santa Muerte, but this is ivory, so it has a different hue. It's a bone white Santa Muerte. I call her ivory. So I use this one, sort of like representing bones because that's exactly the color. So I use it for ancestral
I
wisdom.
was going to ask ancestral wisdom, right?
Yes, ancestral work, for clarity, for resilience. Like you can break my bones, but not my spirit. For bone memory, primal power. So this is the one I use, Bone Santa Muerte. And I have a multicolor Santa Muerte. So this is Santa Muerte that has 20 different colors. Traditionally, you see Santa Muertes that are multicolor only with 7 colors. But this one, and it's a pity you can't see it in the screen. Well, let's see if I can turn off this light if we're able to see a little bit more clearly. But this one has a combination of a lot of different colors. So the Santa Muerte you see usually they're like striped, like 7 colors. This goes from top to bottom. And you have here red, there's orange, yellow, green, aqua, light blue, blue, brown, pink, lilac. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Lilac.
Uh, Lilac. Purple and pink. And then here on the sides, black, gunmetal, silver. And on this side, copper, gold. And on top, black and white. She kind of like reminds me with this black and white like Cruella. Black on one side, white on the other.
Right.
But she's a Santa Muerte with 20 different colors, and it represents
Dude.
like the combination of all those different energies in one. Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. So those are my my humble Santa Muerte statues, and ones that I connect with in personal devotion. Hold on. Let me see. I think I exited my screen here by mistake.
I can hear my cat crying in the other room.
Just bear with me for a second. Okay. Any questions?
There are a couple. Hold on. I just started this because I'm a rooster too, Selena. That's cool. All right. Heather wanted to know, whenever you feel down, Ramon, just remember how much we all love you. I guess it was a comment, not a question.
Okay. No, I mean it's. I think we all have those moments. You know, it's not. It's not that I go into a deep depression or anything. We all have
No,
our
we all
days
have
in
those, but where
which.
it's called being human.
But I appreciate the comment. Love you too. It's good that we support each other. Yeah. So,
So
how did I connect with Santa Muerte? How
that
did
was
Santa
gonna be
Muerte?
my next question, dude. I'm not kidding.
Yes. So I've heard of Santa Muerte for years. You know, I've been to Mexico several times, Mexico City specifically, and I've seen depictions of Santa Muerte, and I've heard and seen the same things people see around, you know, like in movies, Santa Muerte, the scene of Narcos, and everything. But you know, when Santa Muerte wants to connect with you, she comes like right on the she comes on the right moment, and she's like very obvious with the signs.
I've
Like
noticed that.
it's very obvious. You know, you start seeing things about her, people talking about her. She pops up in videos. Like it's all around, and it's because she knows you're a person who could dedicate uh pure love and devotion, and she has something to bring into your life. Just give me 1 second. My monitor looks really dark.
I want to say while you fix that, Ramon,
Hmm.
Santa Muerte and Hecate are nowhere near the same beings. This has come to my attention on more than one occasion. People asking, are they the same? No,
No.
they are not. Hecate is a psychopomp that leads you through the aspects of death. We're talking about the actual spirit of death here. It's
Hmm.
different altogether.
Yes. So in my case, I started like getting like signs and messages, and I don't know, like I was like seeing her all around. My partner and I, we do a Halloween party every year, and every year is a theme. You know, one year we had this of it was like creepy horror, and I was a killer clown. It was a lot of fun. We we we, uh, we have uh, a sh- uh, a place where we store our decors and all that, and like 75% of the seasonal decors that we have is like Halloween. So this year, that particular year, we bought a skeleton and we put it like in the center of the table, and we put like pieces of meat. I'm vegetarian, but like for my family who came over and friends, that there was like pieces of meat on top of the skeleton and fruits, and it was a lot of fun. So the following year we were gonna do like sugar skull theme party, and I was like a sugar skull mariachi and etc. But when we were decorating, um we pulled the skeleton, and that same week I was like getting a lot of like Santa Muerte messages and input. Like she was everywhere. So my partner, out of the blue, like he said, why don't we decorate the Santa Muerte, this skeleton as Santa Muerte, and put her at the entrance of the house?
Hmm.
And to me that was mind blowing, because it was like my partner doesn't follow spirituality. He's never talked about Santa Muerte, and to me that was a like a sign that she wanted to come to my house. She wanted to cohabit with me. She wanted to be in my life, and not only the physical dwelling but also like the spiritual. And We decorated it as Santa Muerte. We put like all the elements that represent her, the globe, the scythe. She was gorgeous. The only thing that was missing was an owl, and we were thinking about buying like one of these plastic owls that you find in Home Depot to like keep away the doves. And after like seeing like so many signs that week and seeing that one, it wasn't coincidence. So that same day, I was in the balcony, and I was sitting in front of the statue of the representation of Santa Muerte, and I said, if you want to connect with me and you want to come into my life, give me a sign. And right on that moment, an owl flew into my balcony. Yeah, and I'm getting a little bit emotional, but it's because it was so powerful. I've never seen an owl in my life, much less in the city. I live in Philadelphia, like center city, Philadelphia. The only thing different in terms of birds that I've ever seen was an eagle, um, a cardinal recently, but an owl I've never seen. And this owl flew into my balcony and it was just standing there. And like time stopped right there. And I had like this connection, eh, like a mental spiritual message saying, yes, I want to connect with you. This is the sign that I'm giving you. And from that day, I connected with her and she's been part of my life. And I'm telling you, she's been of great spiritual support to me. Anything that I ask her for, she gives me. I don't ask her for stupid things. I want to win the lottery. That's like dumb.
I think that is a given. I don't ask my gods for those type of things either. I'm not going to
Yeah.
waste that connection.
No, no, it's just stupid. Because and a lot of people might say, "Oh, why don't you ask her for the lottery?" No, I mean it's like these are things that maybe inherently we want, but at the end, are they the best thing? You know, and like for example, if you have a pet and you open, like for example, I have two tarantulas, and one of my tarantulas escaped, and I was in
Dude, I'd
agony.
move. I'd just pack up and move houses.
No, no, they're not poisonous or anything. They're actually like very submissive and um but my tarantula escaped in here in the basement and I was in agony for a whole week because even though the tarantula was happy, oh, freedom, let me explore and everything, I knew that she could die, she could get dehydrated.
Right.
The temperature wasn't right. And these are things that in her heart, in her little tarantula heart, she wanted to do, escape and her sense of freedom, but I knew it wasn't the right thing for her.
Right.
And that's I kind of like how I see it. It's sometimes we ask for these things that we think are right for us. In reality, they're not. Down the path, it takes us to things that I don't know could
Um,
lead to destruction. So
Ramon, um, we got a couple questions. Uh, Santissima, yeah, it means little saint, you guys.
Santissima, like the most holiest. It's like because you have Santa, which is saint, but Santissima is like the highest saint. Like
Have you
it's
spoken of her sacred flowers and plants yet? No, not yet.
no, no. A flower that is usually associated with Santa Muerte and death is the marigold, Sepansuchil, I think it's called in Nahuatl. It's specifically the Mexican marigold, and it's actually my favorite flower, and it's my favorite flower
Is
even before connecting with Santa Muerte. And it's the
mm,
Aztec flower of the dead. It's a beautiful one, and I have it in my altar, and I'm gonna actually show in the video. But yeah, that's usually when you see representations of Santa Muerte, La Catrina. That's also a motif associated with that. When you see the picture of Santa Muerte too, people tend to depict her with roses. What is it?
uh They said, just join. No idea what this live is about, but the title caught my curiosity. Well, what we're doing is we're learning about La Santa Muerte from Ramon. He is a devotee, and this is the chance. Everybody's always had questions for Ramon, but they're kind of all over the place. This is where we're putting them all together. Now we can grill this sucker about
Please
uh,
do.
yeah, so there's been some awesome questions going around, you guys. And please, if you are not subscribed to the Wild Raven Tarot channel, please do so. And if you are not subscribed to the Moon Scarab channel, please do so. Um, is the owl and the globe and the scales and the scythe the only icons, basically?
Associated to Santa Muerte, yeah. I mean, the robe also.
The
Some
robe.
people, yeah, the robe definitely. Some people, when they pray to Santa Muerte, they ask her, protect me with your robe, cover me. And there's been stories of,
Ah,
and Cressida on her book, Secrets of Santa Muerte, she mentions a story of some ladies. This is the book. I love this book. Always recommend it to people. I gifted it like so many times. She alludes to a story of two ladies who were like in this dangerous barrio in Mexico, and they knew they were going to get mugged, and they pleaded right there
ay,
to Santa Muerte for protection and asked her to cover them with her divine robe. And these people, they were like looking around where these ladies were, and they were right there, but they were invisible. They were cloaked by her protection. And let me tell you, I'm a person, I filter everything through reason before going into the spiritual. I don't jump into spirituality to explain things.
mm-hmm.
When I get to the point when I believe something to be spiritual, to be divine, I filtered it and thought of it and before getting there. So this is something that I take really seriously because to me, it's the proof is like undeniable. She's
Right.
brought a lot of positivity into my life, a lot of healing. People get kind of like freaked out by her depiction because she's a skeleton, but a lot of it is this cultural baggage that we have with the concept of death. You
Speaking
know.
of cultural baggage and associations, I use this deck, the Santa Muerte Day of the Dead deck, in my ancestor readings. She looks an awful lot like the Virgin Mary in the blue and red.
Yeah,
So
she looks like very La Guadalupe.
I get why people make that association. I really do.
hmm
Um,
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen this card with a different color. That would have been awesome.
that's a
So
that's a beautiful deck, but I don't. I have it. I have the tarot and the oracle, but I don't use it for connection with Santa Muerte.
I use that deck
Bec-
for ancestor readings.
yeah, because to me it reads more of La Catrina. I see it like a more palatable version of the
Watered
depiction of
down.
Santa Muerte. Yeah, I mean, I'm not criticizing it. I respect the artistic
It just looks
expression
like
of it.
every
It's
it looks like
beautiful.
every
I have
family
it.
deck.
It's beautiful. I mean, I have it, and I go very deep into it. But for the deep connection with Santa Muerte, I use other tools. I use
Yeah,
other decks that have a
that deck,
different
it just looks
energy.
like family gatherings growing up. When I see,
hmm
I'm like, oh, I remember that party.
Yeah.
Lennon wants to know, what deck do you use, Ramon, for connection?
So I use um, several decks. I have this one called Tarot de la Santa Muerte. You can find it in Amazon. It's made in Mexico. And this one is, I think it's 80 cards. And let me see if I can open it. The only
But you,
downside might be it's that it's in Spanish, but it follows, the Rider Waite, but Santa Muerte is depicted. I don't know if it's the clear depicted in each one of them. So you have like the magician there, um, uh, the two of swords, See Santa Muerte depicted there as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Um, but it's not only tarot, but it's also oracle. So it gives you like some keywords right there. Um, you have the Hermit. There she is. So if you see it's like a different vibe, in comparison to that other Santa Muerte deck. So that's one of them that I use. I have a second version of that same one, which is really cool. But this one has. Let's see if I could. These boxes are kind of like weird to open.
While he's opening that, you guys, if you have not seen the interview that Ramon did with Dr. Stone, please go back and watch it. I was
I'm
bawling when you got to the Halloween part. The way he presented it. I lost
when I was talking
my
about the owl,
yeah, and I'm
I
texting
got
Selena going, "Oh my god, I'm bawling." She was the same thing. Uh, yeah, you guys got to watch that video.
I got very emotional because everything I every time I think about that initial connection I had with her, it was like it was unique, and just thinking how much positivity she's brought into my life. I mean, I have no words to tell her thank you for coming into my life. That one that I show you has a second version, so it's one that has like more detailed keywords. So this one, which is the what is it, Eight of Cups, has the keywords of like escape or
Uh,
search. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful deck. I mean, it's a different vibe. I found recently this one in Amazon, which is really cool, and it's called Santa Muerte Colors Tarot, and the images are really cool because let me see if I can show you one. For example, the Magician.
Heather, if you read this book, it's going to be so easy to understand, and it's going to touch you in ways aren't prepared for. It's a really good
Three of
book.
Wands. Yeah, it's a beautiful Santa Muerte deck,
It's not
and
just
it comes in.
I
It has a Santa Muerte of different colors, so you can use it as a tarot deck, or you can connect with the energy of the color of the Santa Muerte that it represents. Yeah, the book from Cressida Stone is an amazing book. There's a
it's not
couple
just
of
a book.
it's a guide. It's a
It's a
guide.
guide.
So there's two books that if you want to get into the topic of Santa Muerte, I recommend reading. One is Devoted to Death by Andrew Chestnut. His approach to Santa Muerte is more anthropological. So he does a lot of research into the history of Santa Muerte, personal experiences. Um, it sees it from an academic point of view. This book, on the other hand, is a guide. This published by Cressida Stone. I interview her in my channel. I have a video, but you can also find other interviews that she's done with other people, and she's
I
amazing. I mean, I just love her.
I may
This
have
book,
put that video link in my description. I'm not
okay,
sure.
super. Yeah, this book, she goes into the history of Santa Muerte. She talks about uh, the different colors of Santa Muerte, the different symbols. She initially went to Mexico to do a research because she's a anthropologist. Graduated from, she has a doctorate in anthropology from Oxford University in England.
Oxford, yeah.
And in religious studies, she was doing like some investigations, and she went to Mexico researching into Santa Muerte. But her experiences were so powerful and so deep that she ended up becoming a devotee of Santa Muerte. And this book is amazing. It goes into the history. She talks about her personal experiences. She gives you prayers for Santa Muerte, for different situations. What's it's just incredible. Last night I was like organize like refreshing my Santa Muerte altar for a video that I wanted to film for today's show. And I was talking to her because this is very personal, but I was thinking about doing a change of career paths my job sometimes gets like very overwhelming, takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I was talking to her, asking her, if it was the right move to change jobs. I pulled a Lenormand deck that I have called the Ofrenda Oracle. Some right here. There's a beautiful images, and the message was that it wasn't the right moment. Situation wasn't clear, and I pulled a book and I was filming for the video, like flipping through the pages, and I landed right there on the page that has a prayer for a difficult job. Like
Really?
boom, right there. Yes, yes. And I mean, it. You can see it in the video too. It right there on that moment, and that was a comfort for the situation that I was going to. That indecision. So she always answers, and she's like very obvious. She's funny at times. I'll tell you a story and I'll show you a photo. Let me see if I can find my mouse. The other day, well, in my altar, I always have a pomegranate for Santa Muerte. For me, that's my favorite fruit as an offering. But Santa Muerte, she likes sweets. She likes her tequila. There's several elements of a Santa Muerte altar that you should always have. So I was in the supermarket. I found this beautiful pomegranate, and I was talking to her, saying, "I want to get you some candy. Should I get you also some cake?" Just like I just said that. I went to pay, and as I was paying, I pulled the pomegranate and I said, "This is for my Santa. Like this is for my saint." Could you believe that 2 steps after, this is what I saw? This is the first thing I encountered. It was like a display of balloons, and this is the first balloon that my eyes laid on, and it says, "Relax, I'm here for the cake." you know, it's stuff like that it's like funny and dumb at the same time. I get messages from her. It's like she has a great sense of humor as well. Today, I was at Walmart and I was with my partner. We're looking like he likes making Dubai chocolate, so we're looking for like ingredients to do it. And we went through the shirt section of kids, and he was talking to me saying, "Let's see if we can find a shirt for our nephew." But in my mind, I was thinking about today's show, and I was talking Santa Muerte, and I was telling her, "Should I add the video of the altar? Is that too much?" And right there in that moment, I lay my eyes on a shirt, and this is what came up: "Keep on rocking," and it's like these skeletons like playing. It's like stuff that I get all the time with her. It's like messages, but she also has that sense of humor. This one time and this one was a little bit intense to me. Um, I was looking for something to put on Santa Muerte's altar, and I was listening to Cressida Stone book because I had that book printed and I had the audiobook, and she was talking about a story when she wanted to find something for Santa Muerte for her altar, and she promised her red roses. So I went to the supermarket to buy red roses, and sometimes I refer to Santa Muerte as Madrecita, like mother. So I went and bought the roses, and as I was exiting, again in this same supermarket that I had, this happened to me. This lady said, "Your mother's gonna love these roses," and it's like omens like that I get all the time that are like, it's not coincidence, it's undeniable, and a mix of humor with healing, and it's a beautiful, beautiful energy. To me, I connect much better with the imagery of Santa Muerte, uh with bones. At first it was a little bit difficult, and my first Santa Muerte image is one called Santa Muerte Encarnada, which is a Santa Muerte that is like half flesh and half skeleton. I'm gonna play the video of the altar, but to me, skeletons, and I've said this ad nauseum, like so many times. To me, skeletons, I don't get freaked out by skeletons. To me, they represent equality. When you see a skeleton, you don't see gender, you don't see race, you don't see ethnic background, social status. You see equality, which is the basics of who we are. And if you flip the other side of the coin, a lot of people have a hard time connecting with, I don't know, with a black Santa Claus, a
Yeah.
white European Jesus. I don't know. It's the color of the skin with cultural differences. Yes, needs to be celebrated, but people find blockages in connecting with imagery like that. With a skeleton is different. It's the basic of who we are. Deep inside, what are we? We're just a walking skeleton.
Meat
So to me,
suits. Yeah.
hmm
We
so I
are
connect.
death is the great equalizer. Like
hmm
um
I mean, but not even death. I'm just talking about the motif of skeletons and bones. I have a
yeah,
lot of
we all
decks,
got them.
and all my decks, almost all of them, they're just like livid. I mean, not livid, like skeletons that are active, and they're not just like dry bones. They're like if we take an X-ray of ourselves partying or doing different things.
The skeleton tarot is one of my favorite to use. When I use that deck, I feel my cousin. Um,
hmm
when I opened that deck, I felt my cousin for the unboxing. So yeah,
Yeah. Any questions before I play the video of the altar?
I would like to say this is a video that's going to take several minutes, you guys. So ask your questions now before Ramon plays. Ramon, I'm loving this. You are explaining things wonderfully.
I hope
Uh,
I do. I'm sharing my personal experience, and I want to do justice to her. I want to like clarify a lot of things because she deserves it. She's a beautiful energy. She's been misrepresented, and there's nothing to fear with her. This is not. I don't practice necromancy. I don't practice the dark arts, Satanism. Nothing. None of that stuff. I'm a vegetarian. you know, I don't drink. This is something that is totally different. It's a
I
beautiful energy, and it's really healing. And
I'm
to me
not
to
gonna
say
lie,
that,
it just seems odd somehow the vegetarian and devoted to a skeleton goddess. It just
I
seems a little
know.
odd. Ramon, do
I
you want to go
don't.
ahead and play that video, my friend?
Yes. Let me see. Hold
And
on.
so
Altar.
everybody grab your
I'll show you
popcorn.
the different statues I have, the offerings, and the various elements on my altar and what they represent. The Santa Muerte statue that you see was the first one I have ever got. And this is called a Santa Muerte encarnada, which means Santa Muerte in the flesh. When I started my Santa Muerte devotion, I felt connected to her, but I initially struggled to connect with the imagery of just a skeleton lady. And this statue helped me transition into it. As you can see, she's dressed in silver, half skinned, half skeleton, with her owl and a lamp standing over the earth and a bunch of golden coins at her feet. Beautiful. The next one is a wooden Santa Muerte sculpture. This one was made in Ukraine and is hand carved from wood. And as you can see, she has all the typical Santa Muerte elements: the scythe, the globe in her hands, the scales, and more. She's just gorgeous. The third one over here is a Santa Muerte statue that my friend Bobby from Wild Raven Tarot gifted me. And this is a red Santa Muerte with her scales and a lamp. In her other hand, she holds a scythe and an hourglass. All three of these statues, like all the other ones, feature an owl. And it's the same type of owl. It's the owl with the horns called tufts, which represents her messenger. Over here, I have 4 little Santa Muerte statues in a gunmetal color. Each one has a distinctive Santa Muerte element. One has the scales, another one has the owl, the third one has the globe, and the fourth has the hourglass. All of them are holding a scythe. This Santa Muerte over here is dressed in white and gold with a golden background and very detailed motifs. Again, she's holding the earth and her scythe with the owl as her companion next to her, and she's surrounded by roses representing devotion and a golden glow. On my altar, I have natural red roses. Santa Muerte loves red roses. I also included marigold flowers, which are the Aztec flower of the dead. And it's a very strong symbol of Dia de los Muertos, Mexico, and by default, an honor to Santa Muerte. Over here, I have a skull crowned with butterflies and flower, and it's a beautiful skull. And even though it's not directly Santa Muerte, I feel it embodies her feminine energy and beauty. There are also symbols of the moon, representing feminine energy, intuition, mysticism, and transformation, which are also symbols of life and death itself. Here, I have a bluebird, and the reason I have it is because one day I asked Santa Muerte for a miracle. And as a sign of that miracle, I asked her to see a bluebird, and shortly after, my prayer was answered. And as a sign, a bluebird came, not only one, but a bunch of them flew into my patio right on that moment. It was a random sign that I asked for, and the prayer was answered. And as a sign, I got the bluebird's visitation as well. So this bluebird is a reminder and a thank you for that answered prayer. Next to it, I have a hand, symbol for divine protection and the all-seeing eye. In the back, I have other elements. I have a hand-carved image of an owl. Like I mentioned, it represents Santa Muerte's messenger. I have a crystal skull and an Aztec death mask made in Mexico. This is authentic from Mexico. This plate over here is one that I use to put offerings to Santa Muerte, and I always keep a pomegranate at her altar. To me, the pomegranate is a powerful spiritual fruit that represents fertility, prosperity, growth, nurturing, and femininity. And this dish was handmade and hand painted in Mexico. So I wanted to keep like the Mexican tradition and vibe. I love the colors and the artwork on this plate. Behind it, I have other essential elements of any Santa Muerte altar. A glass of water to hydrate Santa Muerte because she's a skeleton, but also water is a spiritual conduit between the physical and the spiritual worlds. I have sweets and candy for Santa Muerte. Santa Muerte loves sweets, and if you want sweet things in your life, you should include them in your altar too. Nothing bitter or sour, only sweet things. Santa Muerte has a sweet tooth and always enjoys sweet things at her altar. I have here a served shot of tequila. Here she has a little cellar of tequila bottles at her altar. I have for her a bottle of Patron Añejo Gold Tequila, a bottle of Patron Silver Tequila, and an open bottle of 1800 Tequila 100% agave. From personal experience, she seems to prefer the 1800, but nonetheless, she enjoys them all. I also have a pack of cigarettes for Santa Muerte, and even though I don't smoke cigarettes, tobacco has always been an ancient offering to different divine figures throughout history and in different cultures. And in this case, it's represented by cigarettes, a very common offering at Santa Muerte altars. Behind this wooden Santa Muerte, I have a little green and gold chest where I write petitions, things I want my Santa to answer or do for me, and favors I ask her for. So I keep these petitions in this little chest. As you can see, I use LED candles. I use LED candles when I'm not near the altar. To me, safety is a priority, and I feel much better using LED candles than real fire candles and leaving them unattended. It's not about the element of fire to me, but about having light in the altar, attracting light, positivity, clarity. And for me, LED lights serve the same purpose. The only difference is the light source. Spiritually and energetically, it really doesn't do a difference for me. Every Santa Muerte altar should have a copy of this amazing book, Secrets of Santa Muerte, a guide to prayers, spells, rituals, and hexes by Cressida Sloan. It's an amazing book with not only the history and personal experiences from the author, but it's a guide with prayers and how to set up your altar. It explains to you the different colors of Santa Muerte, and it's just an amazing guide to have with you for knowledge. And this book is always with me and at the altar. And when I'm not using it, I place it at this corner. So this is an overview of my altar. I hope it inspires you and gives you ideas on how to set up yours. Remember, this is a spiritual belief. It's not about getting expensive things or fancy statues or excessive spending. Even a printed photo would do. This is about representing love, respect, and devotion towards Santa Muerte in the best way you can. She really appreciates anything you do with love and respect to represent and honor her. So I hope Santa Muerte blesses you. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and blessings to all.
Ramon, that was awesome. Thank you for
Thank
sharing that most intimate part of your devotion with us.
Yes, I wasn't sure if I wanted to, share images of my altar. I mean, because it's really personal, but at the same time, this is an opportunity to um educate, I guess it might be the word,
Enlighten.
on enlighten, yes, enlighten on who Santa Muerte is, what things, if you decide to honor her through an altar, what things you should have. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This is a personal journey. Whatever you have, you can even have an image on your cell phone and connect with her through that. Pray to her using that as a connection. A printed photo, if you want a statue, that perfect. But one thing that the book mentions is, and I know this from personal experience, if you set up an altar for Santa Muerte, it's always best just to have it just for her, because the energy flows better. And uh, I had this figure. It's a lunar figure from the Taino tradition. Taino are the Indians from the Caribbean when the Spanish came, and all of us Puerto Ricans are descendant of Tainos. And this is Atabey, and she is the goddess. She's a goddess of fertility, but also goddess of the moon. And when I first set up my altar with Santa Muerte, I had her, and it wasn't until I read the book from Cressida Stone that she recommended just having the altar for Santa Muerte that the energy flowed differently. So yeah, if you decide to do that, again, it's a personal journey. One thing that the book covers that it's groundbreaking, and people have mixed feelings, is if you how to break your relationship with Santa Muerte. If you become a devotee, and sometimes things don't work for us. Sometimes our spiritual path changes. You should always respectfully end your relationship uh, with respect. You should end your relationship with Santa Muerte with respect. There's been stories of people who, they want a favor from Santa Muerte. They connect with her. They get these statues, set up altars, and then I'm done. And they just like toss their statues to the trash, and stuff has happened. You can't just it's like throwing a hot pan full of hot oil in the trash. You know, it's
Yeah.
shit can happen. You got to be careful. So the book introduces that concepts and helps you, if you decide this is not for you, how to respectfully close that, that connection. Yeah. So I don't know if there's any questions, but I hope in this, yeah.
You guys, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up once again for questions while Ramon and I talk real quick. Lennon did ask, could the coins be a sign of transformation, much like in Greek mythos? I know I plan to be buried with coins on my eyes for the ferryman. That's part
Mhm.
of my belief system. Like to traverse to the other side. Yeah. What say you, Ramon?
Usually, depictions of Santa Muerte with coins is more like prosperity, the prosperity aspect. But again, people get different messages through the representation of Santa Muerte. If that's the message you're getting through her, through that iconography, that symbol, that is perfectly acceptable. It's how it resonates with you. Very simple.
Yeah. Owls and scales mean a lot to me because I am a devotee of
Look at
Hermes,
this. I was just
winged
pulling
messengers.
this deck, and look at the card that they just flipped out. Queen of Pentacles.
There you have
And
it.
it's her surrounded by coins.
I've got to get that deck. That looks pretty cool.
It's beautiful deck.
Owls, winged messengers with Hermes, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I brought it up is because today I was at an outdoor market with Joey, the Veiled Cottage Witch, and her wife went and bought us each a little stuffed animal. And what she bought was an owl and a raven and a turtle. And I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. I just really thought that was a good thing because I knew I had this show coming up, and we had the raven and the owl together. So that's pretty
nice.
cool. Yeah. Okay. It doesn't. Yeah. Kaylee says her husband is acquainted with Santa Muerte. Her husband said you better do what's promised to her or watch out.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Don't prevaricate. If you promise Santa Muerte something, follow through. You know.
I think that's with most deities,
Yeah.
with most personifications. You don't want to mess around with them, break promises.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like she's gonna kill you or anything, but you know, yeah. It's like with any
it's probably
relationship you have.
It's probably a good thing that you say that because people may think that may be an outcome. People who have no
No.
clue, like people have a poor view of Hecate because of pop culture, books, TV, and she's usually shown as a vengeful goddess of magic, which, to be honest, she can't be. But she's also the world's soul. She's the Queen of Angels. She's a lot of things. And Ken's going to be coming on next week, I believe, to talk about Hecate. So that's going to be awesome. Lennon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But you know, it's like with any relationship. If I establish a relationship with you and I promise you something and I don't follow through, it's gonna like disrupt the energy. You know, you're not gonna shoot me, I hope, but you know, with her, it's just gonna disrupt the balance. That's it.
Do you have any talismans like jewelry or beads for her? I'm thinking the prayer beads you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I use different divination tools. I use cards. I have some that I crafted myself. Let me see. Where did I put it? I have a pendulum that I made just to connect with Santa Muerte. Shoot, I don't know where I put it. I have like so many Santa Muertes all around here. But yeah, I create a lot of my own divination
Santa
tools.
Muerte's everywhere.
Yeah, like all around, surrounded by divinity. I like doing my divination tools, and I have ones that I specifically use with Santa Muerte. You know, as when I want to connect with her, I had decks that I use with her. I have geomantic sticks. I have runes. I have pendulums. There's some dice that are like skull shaped that I use with her. I use milagros. Let's see, where are they? Oh, here they are. Oh, here's the pendulum. So this is a pendulum that I created that I put together to connect with Santa Muerte. So
keys.
it's sort of like a. Let's see if I can see. It's a skeleton key.
Nice.
See, there's a skull, and so this is a connection, like with her, the underworld, Earth, and the stars.
See? Oh.
Yeah.
The different realms.
So when I have a yes or no question, I pull this. I have this coin. It's a yes or no coin. I got this online, but you know, it says yes on one side.
I was gonna get that one.
No on the other. I have Milagros, and Milagros is very, very popular in the Catholic tradition, and they're like these little charms that have like all these weird shapes. Like they could be eyes, they could be. I think these ones are breasts actually. could be breast, it could be a leg, it could be a heart. Like this one's a corn, and they're all golden, and these have been used for centuries, and they're meant to be pinned on saints when you're asking for favors, for miracles. So I have this whole bag of golden milagros with like all these different shapes of a horse, of a they're charms, they're religious charms, and I toss them for readings when I have questions. I use different tools. So she sometimes I feel like connecting with one of them or the other, but she always delivers a clear message.
We have a question for you from Roman. Ramon, have you ever worked with the 7-inch potencias?
The seven potencia, no, seven potencias. It's more of a santeria tradition, um, and it's if I'm not mistaken, is like seven different orishas and energies together. There is a Siete Potencia Santa Muerte, which is like a Santa Muerte with seven colors, but it's something totally different. No, I mean I respect Santeria. It's not it's never I never connected or had an interest to connect with it, but I do respect it and I believe in its power. Yeah.
Are there Santa Muerte candles like the Catholic tradition has them
Yes.
for
Hmm.
Virgen Guadalupe?
Yes, they are, and they are the one of the highest selling candles of all saints. The Santa Muerte candles, they are.
Really?
It's like crazy, yeah. Seven times more than La Guadalupe in a lot of different cases, or figures or candles, and it comes in different colors as well. Like for green Santa Muerte, for white Santa Muerte, black Santa Muerte. The seven Potencia Santa Muerte comes like a candle, seven different colors. Um, I I don't use candles in per se. I'm always scared about. Scared is not the right word. I prefer LED candles.
Cautious. Cautious.
Yes, and I explained that in my video. For me, candles, unless I'm doing candle work with, I'm actively using candles for different reasons. Uh, Ceromancy or using the flame. I'm using it right there at the moment, and I know
Right.
I'm going to turn it off. But to keep it in my altar, I use LED candles. And some people might be against that. It works for me because for me, it's not the element of fire. And explain that in the video. It's bringing light. And to me, LED candles work as well. Period. That's what works for me.
Hey, yeah, this is any spiritual practice is very personalized.
Yeah.
Do not feel limited by what Ramon has been talking about or what is in Dr. Stone's book. There are certain things that kind of have to be, but there's a lot of leeway in spirituality, you guys.
Hmm. At the end, as long as you have faith, you're respectful. The path
Respect.
that you do or choose to take or your way of devotion is something personal. It's pointless that you're following like to the T how
Mhm.
to do certain things, but if you don't have faith, you don't have respect, you don't have connection, it's pointless. You know?
And we refer back to the show we did on Behind the Moon about intention and energy. You guys go back and check it out. Um, Ramon, is there anything else you want to cover tonight?
No, I just want to say if you feel a connection with Santa Muerte, explore it. From there's nothing to be afraid of about as long as you do it with respect. I'm telling you, for personal experience, it's brought so much into my life, and I foresee her being part of my life forever. She's always here with me, and I mean it literally too. I always carry Santa Muerte with me, and it's I talk to her all the time.
I have my dog tags because
Beautiful.
I'm one of Hecate's hounds. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Just
So,
explore it. I mean, if either on faith, if you want to connect with her, you feel a calling and you want to explore it, just go ahead. If you want to look more into the history of it, it's worth knowing a little bit more because it'll educate you in the top. It'll illuminate you in the topic. But it's a beautiful tradition, and I hope I did justice in explaining what she is and what she represents in my life through today's show.
I think you did a fantastic job. I know more about it now than I did before we started, and that is what the goal here was, to educate and enlighten people, and that includes me.
Mhm.
um,
No, and if you have anyone has questions afterwards, or you're watching this on replay and you want to post a question in the comments, please feel free. You can email me also. My email is on my channel. Just reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer you any questions. You can also reach out to Dr. Cressida Stone. She's on Instagram. Amazing person. She's
did
really
you say
devoted.
this book? Did I hear you say before in your interview with her that you have this book on audiobook also?
Yes, yes. I
Okay,
have both the
that is.
printed and the audio version.
I want to get the
Um,
audiobook.
yes, the printed book is good for like the prayers and such, but the audiobook is good as well. If you want to like to re-listen the topics, definitely.
All right, you guys, I want to thank everybody for being here and being part of this discussion. Thank you, Ramon. We all love you
Thank you for
so much.
having me. Thank you.
Stick around. We'll talk backstage. I'll see you guys on the next video. Ramon, before we go, what do you have coming up?
What do I have coming up? I have a lot of shows back to back till today. I think I'm gonna be on Helen's Irish Granny's channel on the 7th, and I'm gonna be with Marina. I think is on the 5th. Yeah, and then after that, I don't have anything scheduled. I'm gonna take a break because I'm traveling actually to Mexico in a few weeks,
And
and I need
when
to
he
prepare for it.
goes, yeah, well, he's gone. Um, we will be joined on Behind the Moon by Indigo Jaguar on one of the nights, and then Yadira will be joining us from Marigolds. I can never get her channel right. Um, I'm sure Selena will post it right now in the chat. But you guys, thank you. Love you all. We'll have a good night. Right. Bye.
Blessings to all.
And